to William Ruto, show us your tax returns. If you have so much money, if you're so blessed that you have 20 million to donate every Sunday, we'd like to know how much you're making in your companies, your audited accounts, and we would like to see how much you're paying in taxes.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. Another exciting day because I have one of the most iconic Kenyans, a trailblazer in her own right, a senior counsel who's fought for justice for a lot of Kenyans, and of course later, in the latest, recently, one of the best authors in Kenya. And if you've not read her book, please just go to the different places where you can purchase. When you go to Nuria bookstore, you can get the book. And of course, she will tell us also details about that later in the show. Karibu sana, Senior Counsel.
Asante sana.
How is the going for you?
Well, 50-50.
Comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, the 50 that I'm alive, I'm well. The 50 all the troubles we are undergoing as Kenyans.
It's sad that nowadays when you ask someone how they are doing, it's always a 50-50. And all this is because of how Kenya is at the moment. How would you define Kenyan politics and the impact it's having on citizens' mental capacity?
I would say we are at the lowest we've ever been. And I know it's putting great stress on people's mental health. And even the physical health, because when you have no access to health services, it can even mean death, and it has meant death to some. When your children have no access to education, even in primary schools and secondary schools, capitation is permanently late and unavailable. Yet these children who are boarders have to eat, the education has to go on, teachers have to be paid. The same with the university education. When the court put a stop to the discriminative so-called new model, common sense demands that they should have reverted to the old way of giving people money, and that is the help. They have not done so. Over 18,000 students are at home. Not to mention the many, many other things, reports of siphoning and outright theft of public funds daily, 1.3 trillion withdrawn from the consolidated fund irregularly, and this is under Bandi's watch. I am saying Bandi because a few days ago, we had an MOU signed between the ODM party leader Raila Odinga and Dr. William Ruto of the KK Alliance. And they are telling us one of the things they are going to observe is rule of law. If already they have been breaking the law together, because that treasury from where 1.3 was withdrawn was presided over by an ODM person.
Yeah.
Other sections of government are being presided over by ODM. So what's going to change? Maybe their share will change because now we are told it's 50-50. They'll get more jobs for their people, but nothing changes.
Nothing changes to Kenyans. And this is in a minute you've mentioned like 4 different things, which we shall come into. I mean, every Kenyan now can mention that. But in your capacity as someone who's seen Kenya from the days of single party to what we have today, how would you define the politics in Kenya, considering what was there then, what you people fought for, what we got as democracy, and where we are today, seeing we have a democracy, but then again,
Moi wonders that one day we'll miss him. I've missed him already.
Really?
Because Dr. Ruto is worse than the worst time of Moi era. The kind of violations of human rights, abductions, executions, torture, demolition of houses, even of people having titles, under the guise of environmental concerns. No alternative is given to these people. And these are mass demolitions. It's not one random person here and there. The kind of things going on is like a script from hell. That's what I would say.
And when you look at this, considering that in the early 90s, of course, some of us were very small kids, we didn't, but at least history has taught us. When you look at what you fought for and what it is today, how would you say that makes the Kenyans of your age and those, of course, who are ahead of you feel about it?
I think William Ruto has done his best to destroy Kenya. The only thing standing between him and total destruction is the Constitution of Kenya, which we gifted ourselves in 2010. And Kenyans must therefore safeguard this document so jealously. I'm seeing proposed constitutional amendments. Kenyans must not allow amendments under William Ruto. It will be the beginning of dismembering of our constitution. And like I say, it's the only thing between us and total destruction. Let our constitution remain. Let it be obeyed together with the law. Plus, you never allow somebody who has refused to obey the constitution and is full of impunity the leeway to open up that sacred document. Abductions are an epidemic now. Yet we have a constitution that safeguards our rights as Kenyans. The right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to human dignity. Yet people are being abducted, illegally detained, tortured, brutalized and killed. And, such like things have just actually come from Nairobi Hospital, where we went to see and encourage the MCA for Dela Ward, Madera, who has been missing for almost 6 months. He's weak, he's recovering. You wonder, his captors, where was he being kept? Because it's not in a police station. Have we returned to detention without trial? Better Moi's detention without trial. Moi Kenyatta, because even Kenyatta detained people. And when they detained someone, that Gazette notice was an admission by government that they are holding someone. So the anxiety of the family as to the safety of that person would go. You would know he is restrained, but by the state. Now you do not even know whether one is alive or dead. The family of a person who's been detained for 6 months, others have been detained for upwards of 30 days, like Bob Jaggi and the Longton brothers. You can imagine the torture the family undergoes, mental. The torture the abductee undergoes without knowing whether they'll ever come out of it alive. It is totally wrong. And that is not the only problem we have. I've already said lack of access to health. The SHA shift is causing deaths and suffering. The education capitation, lack of disbursements for universities, all those are issues, not to mention the joblessness, which is on the rise. People being scammed by agencies connected with the state for jobs abroad. People who have paid as much as 50,000 and have not seen the jobs they were paying for. It's terrible. And our money being abused, because when our money is put to use in projects, it creates job. It circulates in the economy. But if our money is going to make people billionaires, then it means the jobs of our youth are being chewed up, abused for self-aggrandizement, and our lives being put on the line. So many people who cannot put food on the table. The state is unable to expand the social protection. So these people are not receiving any support for the right to life to be meaningful for them.
And you've mentioned the issue of SHA, which, I think for every Kenyan now, it's a very genuine concern. I went to see a patient in Kiambu level, I think it's level 5, the general hospital. And speaking to one of the nurses, the issue was that SHA is not working for outpatients, meaning they have to pay, and those are the most than the admissions, of course. In the same breath, we were told that 104 billion was used to procure that system. So a system that does not work for the people. And 2 days, I think, after the complaints that came, the president says SHA is here to stay. So when the citizens raise such an issue of having challenges with SHA and having it not properly functional, then a president says it is here to stay.
That's
Where does it
impunity.
leave the citizens, basically?
That is impunity. He's not our king. He's an employee of the people. The people are his bosses. If they say they don't want SHA or it's not working, he should be busy trying to fix it and politely trying to convince Kenyans that there is some good in it. He cannot talk arrogantly, SHA is here to stay. He should be ejected out of office using the people power already so that somebody who is more responsive and can look into SHA. I don't think it's a viable system because the way they have designed it is that money is going to a third party. And when that money goes to a third party, it is not coming back in the quantities expected to serve the people. You hear a bill of 100,000, SHA paying just 1,000 or 2,000 shillings or less. That is not what is meant. NHIF was catering for so many. People had forgotten about paying. And it was paying both in public hospitals and in private, especially private owned by religious institutions. Those are the majority of hospitals around the country. They've been helping people. They've been grounded by not being paid monies previously owed to them by NHIF. So it looks like SHA was designed to enrich a few. Money is going. They already continue to pay themselves, claiming they made the system. And I'm reminding Kenyans, it was in the papers. Those who own that system include people who are close to Dr. William Ruto, including the wife of his economic advisor.
David Ndii.
Yes, including a certain doctor from Nairobi West who is his close associate, and others. I can't remember everybody completely. So those are the people who have gotten the 104 billion for doing the system. They are the ones. I do not know to whose account, because SHA is going to a private account offshore. In Dubai, it was said. So and therefore not available to us. How can you design a system just to siphon money from Kenyans? This is an extractive regime that resembles the colonial enterprise.
So for citizens, when they raise issues that it's not working, and of course, speaking from experience, it's not working for them, what solutions, because now for the citizens, much of it will be, it's not working. But what solutions, if you are in that capacity, would you work with? Or even do the citizens have at the moment?
Abolish that system immediately. Restore NHIF, but with strict accountability, so that it works for the people the way it was working. And it would work better because we would ensure that there is no theft or abuse of funds. NHIF was a working model. Yes, we needed to improve governance, but we need to improve governance even in the executive. You don't kill the baby with the bathwater. You rectify what is wrong. And that's the same thing with help. You do not design a system to discriminate, because the court stopped it on the basis of discrimination. You cannot design a system to discriminate against your own citizens. So let us revert to help and let's make it work.
From where you sit, what do you think makes, because there's SHIF, there is the university, there's the capitation, all these new models are not functioning for the people. What would you say makes them not work, or what makes the government launch things that are not functioning for the people? And essentially, you're supposed to work for the people.
They do so deliberately. They have hijacked the state. The state no longer serves Kenyans, a majority of Kenyans. They've hijacked it to only work for the political elite. Everything for them works. They don't have to come to private hospitals, all mid-level private hospitals who are struggling for not being paid by SHA. They pay hefty insurance for them elsewhere. Actually, those in the public service must be made to use the same services as the mwananchi, then they'll spend time improving them. If all the cabinet secretaries, all the members of parliament, who include the MCAs, because theirs is a parliament at the local level, if everybody from PSs to senior civil servants were told they must use public hospitals and their total insurance will be SHA-SHIF, you would see a dramatic change.
Do you think the lawmakers of Kenya would agree to that in terms of passing it legally in parliament?
It's not for them to agree. It's the people of Kenya who will agree. And that's not a law. It's a policy decision that government will henceforth only pay insurance to the public service insurance agencies. SHA-SHIF, NHIF was an insurance scheme for the entire country. Public hospitals are open to everyone. Let's equip them and let's professionalize service everywhere. All that money we are wasting paying other insurance, you can let the hospitals have better equipment and pay the doctors better. Then depending on your pay grade, those who feel that they are not satisfied with the public insurance scheme, they will fork money out of their pocket from their pay and pay for extra services for themselves. It's a free world.
And I believe then that way, with that suggestion, it would actually work because we would fix the systems, including maybe schools.
Even schools. But you see schools, nobody pays for school unless if you are working abroad. You pay for school from your salary. So let's improve public schools. Most of us are products of public schools. In my era, private schools were very few and far between. Even private hospitals, private dispensaries, we all knew only public, meaning the systems still worked. When I came to this Nairobi to study, because I came for my A-levels at Nairobi Girls in 75, the city council had in different parts of the city clinics that ran 24 hours. And Kenyatta Hospital likewise was running for 24 hours. So you would never miss a place access. And we were not paying in the council health clinics. So you just went and you were treated.
How did we lose it along the way? From where you sit?
Greed. That you want to wear shoes and belts of hundreds of thousands. And most probably, it's coming from the public purse, your packs. If it's not your packs, you want to amass even what your packs cannot pay. Therefore, there is a system of abuse of public funds, siphoning and milking to live a lifestyle you would otherwise not afford. Nobody is stopping anyone from liking the finer things of life, as they call them. Sweat for them and enjoy them. Do not enjoy at the expense of the people who have lifted you up.
And it's Kenyans' taxes, actually.
It's Kenyan taxes. I keep asking, dear Kenyans, for how long shall we tolerate this? When shall we say enough is enough? The Gen Zs did so last year, June. We let them down. We should all have come out at that stage. As the stage of massacre of the Gen Z, we should all have come out. And it is still possible to make this rogue regime listen to the people. We don't necessarily have to come out to demonstrate, but there are many ways of forcing the regime on its knees. The way the Gen Z forced it, and it had to do a fake thing of pretending to sack in order to renew and bring in more competent people, and then returning more or less the same cabinet.
And that return came with a lot of experts from the, I don't know whether it's ODM or the Azimio coalition side.
From ODM, you could even say Azimio. I'm not a member of Azimio. We exited.
You left.
We exited formally.
Formally, you're out.
Then NAC Kenya, but now PLP. We are no longer part of that coalition. We gave the requisite notices. We finished every legal thing we were supposed to do, and the registrar did gazette us last month to say we are no longer part of them.
Ah, nice. And with that, you've launched the People's Liberation Party.
Yes, it is not launching a new party. It was a brand event, reveal event, revealing our new brand. From NARC Kenya to People's Liberation Party, aka PLP.
Unite,
Liberate. And also changing our colors from green, red, and black to, green, red, and white to purple, lilac, and white.
Men have struggled to look for that lilac color.
Lilac is just a lighter purple.
They thought it was pink.
No, it's a lighter purple, almost towards pink, but it is a purple. And we remain the flower party, but the flower is no longer red. It is now a purple.
How does it feel looking at the relaunch that you've done, and what are the strategies now for PLP into this new phase of uniting and liberating the country?
The strategy is just to get out, talk to the people, look for them, expand our territory, because parties exist to capture power. Take the gospel of liberation to the people, ask people to join the liberation movement, and get as many, and also look for allies in the political world, which we have already started doing starting from the date of the branch reveal, because the task of sending the clueless KK regime home and all its allies is not a small task. It requires all people of goodwill. So we are still opening our doors wider and looking for others of like mind, those who want to relieve Kenyans of the pressure they have now, to take off the boot that is on the neck of Kenyans. And one of those bad things is high taxation, which is totally against basic principles of taxation. You can't tax people beyond where they can endure. You can't literally take away the children's food from the table while taxing the parents or their education. It is not how much you tax people, it's how efficiently you utilize that money. Instead of overtaxing people, cut out on wasteful spending. Travel around the country and outside to ostensibly benchmark. All that wastage, stop it. And most of it is by the president, the parliament, and senior officers, and the counties. Let's stop that. Leave it to a bare minimum. Redirect that money to critical services that support the right to life, that make it meaningful, like health, education, like housing. Housing means, and social support. Social support means if there are people who are homeless, give them a stipend or build houses where such people can go. Because right to life is not leaving people to live in the wild like animals. It's catering for those of, the vulnerable. It's also creating jobs so that you don't get our youths to be desperate. And a corrupt economy like this one cannot create jobs. Instead, it diminishes. The bureaucratic red tape, high taxation, and corruption has spoiled the business environment, making companies close, causing loss of jobs instead of increasing the jobs. It makes it so hard for our youth with their startups to carry on. They are opening and closing because of all those factors. Instead, we should be supporting them because we are expanding the tax base and we are also expanding the job market. We must have an economy that works for the people, and the People's Liberation Party would have an economy that works for you, that prioritizes your basic needs: health, education, water, electricity, housing. And you do not have to charge people a housing levy in order to build houses. We've always built houses with government agencies without taxing people. Even the affordable houses built by Uhuru when Ruto was his vice president were not, people were not forcibly asked to contribute. How do you force everybody? Some have no chance of even ever applying for those houses or affording them. Make it optional. and give priority to those who contribute when it comes to them getting the houses. Leave those who do not want to build their own houses. After all, how many people have been housed by the government in this country? A majority look after themselves.
Yeah.
Stop forcing people. And then after forcing them, the reports we are getting is that money is literally being shared out with very little output to show. This rogue regime resembles a criminal enterprise.
Wow. And for you now, if you, of course, with the relaunch of the party means you probably have ambitions for leading this country.
Definitely.
Definitely. Ah, fantastic.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what would a Karua presidency look like?
One, there would be order because we would follow the rule of law. Once you follow the rule of law, things fall into place. It has a domino effect. Because those who abuse public funds will soon be taken to court, prosecuted, and jailed. We have a manual called the Constitution of Kenya 2010. It spells out in black and white how to do things. It gives you the values and principles of governance in Article 10, which include transparency, accountability. It includes inclusiveness, because Kenya, we must take care of every Kenyan, not a section. It gives you all the things that we must follow. It talks about social justice, and social justice looks after the vulnerable. It talks about all the things that we should really care about. And our PLP government would be a government that looks at things through the lens of social justice. It would be big on health, universal health. We call it cradle to grave, from the moment you're born to the moment you exit the world. It would look after education because education is an equalizer. I have gone, the places I've gone, because I got an education. We have a duty to educate the next generation, irrespective of the standing of the parents of those children. You do not know which child will come to rescue Kenya in what sector. So educate all and let us utilize our manpower to develop our country. Another thing we would be big on, I have said health and education. We would also ensure that public finances are utilized only in the best interests of the people. And once you do that, you grow the economy. Obeying the law means you are not over-borrowing. Like today there was a report. The regime has already over-borrowed locally by 220 billion. Externally, they've borrowed beyond the limit. The limit was extended during Ruto's currency to over 10 trillion. We have already surpassed that. So we are flouting the law everywhere. If you were to ask what we have done with the monies borrowed internally and externally, they will be very hard placed to show you. So we are borrowing for recurrent expenditure, which is against the law.
Which is also goes to corruption, on the other hand.
Some money never even came to the exchequer. So one of the things is to ensure that we audit public debt so that we are only paying legitimate debt. Stop borrowing so much internally, competing with businesses and with the people, therefore making the cost of money very high and also making people scramble for less money. Free the money so that people can do business, the private sector can thrive. Fight corruption so that the business environment can be okay.
So these are the things that your presidency would focus on.
Yes, the rule of law and everything will fall into place. There is no magic that was applied during the Kibaki presidency where I was a minister.
Yes.
It's just putting the interests of the people first. That if you are in a ministry, you live and dream your work. Not how you are going to enrich yourself with a public position. And if you look at the first Kibaki government, work went on very well.
Very true.
Even when corruption came in through Anglo leasing, it is only a very small section of government that was affected, and ministers were forced to step down. But during the Grand Coalition government, corruption came in and started coming in big time. And that's when I exited government.
And I think
violation
it became a
of rights.
competition of both coalitions. Everyone wanted to be more corrupt than the other side.
I think they were not competing. They were partners. People became partners in that. And that's when I say this is not what we agreed, and I exited. Human rights violations also escalated during that period.
And it was such a confident move for you to make at that point, because everyone couldn't believe that out of all these guys here, it's only Karua who's deciding, I'm done with this and I'm out.
I left money because it's like resigning when I was an elected member of parliament as well as a minister. So the perks of my ministerial duty were like another salary. So resigning means that half of your paycheck is gone. You've left influence and power. But I was a happy backbencher because my conscience was clear and I was able to serve the people and my voice did not fade.
And it has mattered still this day.
I have not been in an elected position for the last 12 years. My voice has not faded because representing people is a calling. It's not about money. I believe that my voice in many occasions is louder than of those who have money.
Agreed.
You see?
Yeah.
So when you are called to serve with everything you have. And if you're just looking for a glamour job, look elsewhere. Let those who can serve the people of Kenya come. Take your position and serve.
And since you've said you're ready to serve this country, which I believe you have quite a number of support from the people, having been in that space for quite a while now, what will be different for you to ensure that this time you get the votes? If, for instance, you decide to go for the presidency for sure.
Not if I decide, I've already decided. I went for presidency in 2012. Different times, I did not succeed. I've gone for Governor Kirinyaga. I know I won. And although the Kenyan courts did not give me justice, they were called out by the East African Court of Justice for not giving me justice. So affirming, therefore, that my case was not properly dealt with. We ran on one ticket. I was running mate to Raila Odinga 2022. I know we won. But William Ruto and his KK alliance sat on the seat. And if people thought it was a joke, the court has confirmed what I was saying in 2022, August, that Azimio was the majority party. We also had majority of counties. We were the majority party in parliament, which has been confirmed by the court, meaning we had more members of parliament. We had more counties. There is no way we could have won counties and parliament and not the seat. This time, I'm not prepared to be a running mate.
You're going for the top seats.
Prepared to be the candidate. But because we have an opposition, a commitment to have an opposition alliance, if that alliance chooses somebody else as a candidate, I will not be running mate, but I will fully support the United Flag Bearer because I recognize that Kenya is bigger than my ambition to lead. But if I'm lucky to lead,
yes,
I will lead. And I will campaign everywhere to make sure that I win. If I'm not the candidate, I will still campaign for the person. It's obvious what I'll do differently. I'll be the candidate. I'll be the lead, not the secondary. So I'll be the one making decisions. I'll be able to oversee things, whether it is agents or the mistakes that we made, all the slips that occurred to enable somebody to come from the back and take the prize. We will seal those. And I keep telling Kenyans it's easy to thwart electoral injustice. If Kenyans decide overwhelmingly to vote for one side, any attempt to rig will fail. If you remember in 2002, when Kibaki came in, it is not that the KANU regime did not try to rig, but the vote was so overwhelming that even the officers you are asking to rig for you are also part of the movement for change. So you don't get anybody to do your dirty work. And if you get, there'll be very few. If the vote is so overwhelming like it was that time, Kanu only managed less than 40 members of parliament when NAC had so many. Now we have 290 parliamentarians and 47 women reps, making it 347.
Yes.
Imagine if people even just elected 200 members on one side, or 220 or 250. It is so overwhelming that no attempt. So if, as a Kenyan, you are saying you are tired, remember this at election time. Do not take the money and say, wacha tumalisane sasa. Kama ni lazima uchukue pesa, uchukua, lakini chaguana na ubongo, sio tumbo. Whatever money you get cannot last you the 5 years. If you ever took money, is it now catering for your health? Is it catering for your children's education and for all your needs? It's better to have a good leader who doesn't give you a single cent, but will work for you. And I'm telling Kenyans, see political parties and campaign as a project to improve Kenya, muradi. Just the same way, if you're a part of muradi wa maji, you do not go to the meetings of that muradi expecting to get money. In fact, it's you who takes money to the muradi, and sometimes you donate your services. It's the same in a political party. Come, contribute ideas and money to your party of choice, and I'm telling you, there is enough room in the People's Liberation Party. Come, make those policies. Come and hold your leadership to account. And we've taken another step forward as the People's Liberation Party. We amended our constitution in December 2024. We now have term limits for party leader. I am not eligible for the next party elections because I've already served 2 terms. It means every 10 years, there will be new leadership in the party. And this is the way you can nurture the next generation to leadership, not holding on to power in a political party forever. Political parties are the ones that form government. And a government is as good as the political party that forms it. If you have a political party that does not believe in term limits, when it comes to government, it will try to change the term limit in the country, the way I have seen the KK regime trying to do. If you have a party that is chaotic, it will form a chaotic government. A party that takes money in order to deny a candidate who won nomination papers and to give a person who buys them, that's a party that will be corrupt through and through. You can know what sort of government will come from the way parties are run. If you feel that you want to be part of the liberation movement, join us. Let us develop and institutionalize PLP to be truly a government in waiting, to change the political landscape of Kenya.
And I love that. But now that you've brought the issues of political parties, I believe political parties are governed by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties in Kenya. When you look at the way parties run generally across the country, are they really independent, and is there like a proper legal way of punishing parties that go against that?
I think parties are independent as far as I know. But parties are sometimes held captive by their leadership. Parties may not practice internal democracy because every party has a national executive, which is the governing body day to day. The highest organ being the National Delegates Convention, where delegates from all over the country come and make decisions. If a party is not used to sitting down, listening to one another to make decisions, it's one person dictating, then that cannot be a good government in waiting. You will find someone saying, like Dr. William Ruto, that SHA is here to stay, telling you, I'm tone deaf, I can't hear your cries, and I don't care. You're supposed to sit down, think about what has been said. If I were him, if I wasn't sure people really don't want it, you would go for public participation and then do as the people wish. But charge-shift requires no public participation. The problems have been too many, and people have objected loudly the country over. A responsive government would be checking what to do about that.
That's true. With the OORP office, is it possible to whip parties?
It is, in a way. There are things they check, but we cannot blame ORPP for governance, if you like, in political parties. We have to up our game, institutionalize our parties. The registrar cannot micromanage as come and sit to hear you pass decisions. When you take a decision and say that our national executive passed this or the delegates conference, he will believe you. So it's us, the membership of the parties, that must push the leadership. Just like we are holding the KK government to account, we should hold our political parties to account too, to ensure that they do what is right. Why are we tolerating a party that sells nomination certificates? Why are we tolerating a party that practices open corruption, taking money from candidates to declare them unopposed? It is you and me who are feeding a monster that is coming back to bite us.
And that monster has really grown, I think, in Kenya. The other part I would question is the judiciary. I mean, judiciary is like, it's been a lifeline for a lot of Kenyans, because if it's not for them, then a lot of things would not be going as Kenyans have pushed. But when you look at how judiciary operates with the executive, would you cite it as fully independent?
The judiciary at times shows signs of capitulation to the executive. But I want to also congratulate those in the ranks and files of the judiciary who have performed their duties with the best interests of Kenyans. And I've seen sparks of light, especially in the High Court, sparks of light among the magistrates, sparks of light in the Court of Appeal, and perhaps some hot air coming from the Supreme Court, if I may use their language. So I'm saying, let every court and every judicial officer ask themselves always, is this in the best interests of Kenyans? You're not an employee of Dr. William Ruto or the KK regime. You're not an employee of a few people in power. You're an employee of the masses of the Republic of Kenya. Your terms of reference: apply the law without fear or favor and in the best interests of the society. We are seeing many instances where that is not done. But because I do not want a blanket condemnation, I have recognized that we are also seeing sparks of light. The judiciary must be called constantly to account. And I know there is an issue currently where there are petitions for the removal of judges. Indeed, it's a procedure in the Constitution. And once there's a petition, JSC, the Judicial Service Commission, has to look into it. Those making the petitions must make it within the law, not mob lynching. And those to whom it befalls the duty to scrutinize them, the Judicial Service Commission, must also do so without fear or favor. And this is a procedure that has been used, and the JSC has even sacked some judicial officers. I do not know why, in this instance, that some in the Supreme Court feel that the JSC does not have adequate rules. If those rules are applied to some of your colleagues, let them apply to you too. I am not saying that the petitions taken there are right, because I have not studied them. But let's have one procedure for everybody. Even if you're at the top, at the middle level, or at the bottom, the procedure is one. The law is one, applies to everybody. To you, who is pushing a petition, push it within the law. Do not use the procedure for mob lynching. Use it in accordance with the law.
Some of the key guys who are pushing, or lawyers actually, not even guys, who are pushing that have been mob lynching, especially Martha Karua and part of the Supreme Court judges on the Twitter space.
I do not want to get into it and take any side. I just want to say whoever does anything must do it under the law. Okay? Because there is a procedure, and if the Judicial Service Commission sees it's not done within the law, they'll be able to return it. True. But let us also not behave as though the procedure of petitioning against a judge is unknown. I once petitioned, and the Judicial Service Commission most shoddily, looked after the petition. And later on, the court hurriedly gave me a monetary penalty. So there are things that are going terribly wrong in the judiciary. But even then, I will not advocate for any move for removal that does not respect.
So the Constitution stands out as the it.
Yeah, the Constitution should be able to give guidance on what is to be done.
All right. And now, we keep saying the new Constitution. I think it's now 15 years old. So it's old enough now, our 2010 Constitution. What would you say are the achievements, gaps, and maybe are there points that you feel should be amended?
Nothing. In a country full of impunity, where the regime and the head of the regime are the main displayers of total impunity, that is not a regime that should be allowed to tamper with the Constitution. They have shown that laws are an inconvenience, and it's like he said, when I keep the Bible down. I think he also meant when I keep the Constitution down, I will not respect it. Because we do not see respect of the Constitution. You can't respect the Constitution and at the same time preside over abduction of citizens, executions, disappearances, destruction of access to health and education, and many, many other things. You can't be respecting the law. And why do I say preside? Under the Constitution, there is a creature of the Constitution called the Security Council, chaired by Dr. William Ruto, his deputy. It has the Attorney General. It has the Minister for Foreign Affairs, who is Mudavadi. It has the Minister for Internal Security, who is Murkomen. It has the Director NIS. It has the Inspector General of Police. It has the Army. That Security Council, having all the organs of security in the country, is the supervisor of security internally and if there is external aggression. We equip them and pay them to know anything concerning security. They cannot tell us that since last year, when abductions became an epidemic, since early last year, middle of last year, to now, they know nothing. If indeed you know nothing about security under your watch, you should be home already and you should not be receiving our salary. So when all these things are happening, I know that our investigators are some of the best. There's something these people are not telling us. There's something they know. Either it is them under their watch, there are agencies that are carrying on these illegal acts, and it is suspected that it is a group. We had intelligence and we said so, and the government never came out to deny that the abduction squad a special group that consists of officers from the different agencies, from the army, from the intelligence, from the police, all together. A majority of them selected from Dr. William Ruto's ethnic group. There are others from other groups in Kenya, and the second largest group in that group, I'm told reliably, are now from the Somali community. And I am not saying it's all Kalenjins or all Somali, but officers specifically drawn who are in that, and there are a few others thrown in from other communities who are in the abduction squad. There's no way you can be commander-in-chief and things like that are happening and you don't know. There's no way you can be the IG and you don't know. There's no way you can be the director of intelligence. They bear collective responsibility. And therefore, these abductions, killing of Kenyans, and we have not even mentioned the deliberate killing of the Gen Z during the protests. This is blood of Kenyans on the hands of the KK regime led by Dr. William Ruto. And I'm wondering why my former boss in the elections, Raila Odinga, has agreed to join people with bloody hands, people who have not repented. Only yesterday, after they had signed what they are calling an MOU, and which is a coalition, post-election coalition agreement, which they refuse to deposit at the registrars because they want to hoodwink us. They said abductions will end, human rights will be observed. We saw people yesterday being tear gassed near the TRM there, who were going to
the church.
The church there where money was poured and where more millions are going.
I think I have like 2 questions there before I forget. One, on the abductions part, one of the people who was abducted is one Kiza Bezije, who had traveled here for your book launch.
For my book launch, yeah.
And after that, we had the Tanzanian, also Maria
Sarungi.
Yes, abducted. And before that, we had the
Turkish nationals,
and some Ethiopians and some Ugandans in Kisumu.
And the MCA for Dela Ward, who only resurfaced yesterday.
Yes.
And whom I've just seen in hospital. He's recuperating.
Great to hear that he's doing good. Yeah. When you see all these things, how does this, particularly for external partners, affect or impact Kenya in terms of how we relate now with all these nations where we've abducted their people?
I think for there must be an illegal cooperation that is going on between, extra-legal cooperation going on between Kenya and Uganda. Because among the people who abducted Besigye, and I know this from him, were Ugandan military personnel who abducted him in Nairobi. And I was questioning it in the military court because last time I checked, Nairobi remains the capital of Kenya. How do Ugandan security personnel come to operate in Kenya and to spirit somebody across the border illegally? Of course, they were in cahoots with Kenyan authorities. Before Besigye, 36 members of his party had been abducted from the Ukweli Pastoral Center in Kisumu. That was July of last year. Before then, Turkish nationals who are refugees in Kenya had been abducted and refouled or returned against their will to Turkey. Ethiopian nationals, serving MCA, Kenyans like Bob Jagi and the Longton brothers, abducted, and many, many others. We are in court over a case of abduction where the court will be making a ruling later this month. There are just too many cases. And from the records of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, over 82 people remain missing. 82. Since the Gen Z protests. Over 60 dead. And we know we shall never properly count the dead because suddenly the city mortuary had close to 1,000 bodies, which means many, many more died but are not properly identified or have been buried in mass graves. We have had cases where the city mortuary and the police are altering records. A person who dies of gunshot wounds is recorded as dying of traffic accidents. And you change even the location the body was found, like the body found in Kitengela, then they write that it's an accident from Ruiru. So in the era of falsification of records by government agencies, why are you hiding? If they died in the course of duty through reasonable use of force, which is allowed by the record, But because they know it's executions, of course, they'll hide.
Now that you've mentioned we have 82 who are missing, we were speaking to Kisii Senator Richard Onyonka, and he mentioned that, I think even at the launch of the PLP, the relaunch, he said that he's aware, or he has information that people are being killed in some Western county execution. So when such information comes out, I believe there must be a way of maybe taking a step. But I believe people like you who have a bigger voice are in a position that, Kenyans will probably make noise and demonstrate. But what much can be done so that these 82 people, we don't just let them...
The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is a constitutional commission. They have been very helpful. They've put it on the door of the William Ruto regime. They have come to court in the abductions case, and they have categorically stated their findings, which I will not repeat because the case is due for ruling. And they are doing just beautifully, even sharing those reports. The Law Society, which is a non-governmental organization led by a great female leader, a woman I'll call young woman because compared to me, she's a much younger woman, Faith Odhiambo, whom we all have faith in, has done so well in assisting the society by taking cases to court. Even the abduction case, we are awaiting a ruling, was taken to court by them. They are at every police station defending those who have been arbitrarily arrested. They are at every spot needed by Kenya. You would mistake them for the people, for the entity in charge of security in the country. When those who are being paid are denying any knowledge, the Law Society is there to seek answers. So we have done what we can do. Join them in court, speak out. But for those who are having elected offices, and I want to salute Senator Onyonka because he does his bit, talk about it in Parliament for records. Ask questions, demand of ministers, demand of government. And I know there are a few who are doing their work. A majority are sleeping on the job. This Parliament, meaning both Senate and the National Assembly, has fallen far below standards. We cannot have a permanent state of violation of rights, and all you can think of is trips here and there. There must be something happening. We cannot have massive abuse of public funds, including 1.3 being just withdrawn kiholera, and we are not hearing enough push from the legislators. And that is why this dubious MOU between ODM and the KK regime must be condemned in the strongest terms.
And I will
I'm calling it
MOU.
Dubious because if it was genuine and in the best interest of Kenyans, register it with the Registrar of Political Parties. Vacate watchdog committees of public accounts and public investments. There are 6 in number in any house. Let those who are truly in opposition occupy those positions to be able to hold the government to account.
Now that we are in it,
Yeah.
What is your view about it? And do you think it has any public interest?
Not at all. I've just said it. It's dubious. If it is an honest enterprise, because coalitions are the order of the day, nothing wrong with them. I myself just came from one and we are now trying to look for another. Coalitions are never wrong. Do it honestly and in accordance with the law. If it's after elections, it's called post-election coalition agreement. If it's before election, it's a pre-election coalition agreement. When immediately after the elections, when we were still in Azimio, I remember all of us, including Raila, complaining that Ruto and his KK regime had irregularly taken over one of our partners, the UDM, which had 10 members or so. They took them so that they could show their numbers in parliament. Remember, UDA, KK Alliance came into government as a minority. That time, even the media was not daring to report they are a minority. We were saying they are a minority. Nobody was caring to repeat those words. So for them to even be able to elect a speaker, they had to poach members, contrary to the law, Because if they had gone the legal way, UDM would have had to have a period of 90 days to give notice. And the speaker was being elected the next day. So they poached kienyeji yao against the law, elected speaker. Now, imagine Raila Odinga, a man who has fought for this country previously, for democracy, is now at the forefront of actually destroying the same democracy, the same checks and balances. If we complained with him when we were in Azimio that KK had annexed the UDM irregularly, why would he now want to form a working arrangement which is not formal and which denies and messes with the accountability mechanism in the design of our constitution? I'm telling him it's not still too late.
What do you think into a formal agreement?
I am saying enter a formal agreement, my friend. Right Honorable Raila Odinga, lead the ODM into a formal agreement with KK. Nobody is stopping you. Vacate the watchdog committee seats and let those who are truly in opposition, like Wiper, DAPK, Jubilee, led by the Uhuru Kenyatta side, let them, because Jubilee, Wetangula divided it into two again irregularly. Let those who are truly in opposition in the National Assembly, in the Senate, and in the county assemblies lead watchdog issues. You can't have your cake and eat it. You are hurting Kenyans. And do not tell us of a 10-point plan that does not give immediate relief to Kenyans. If it's rights, we saw them violated yesterday, even before the ink on the MOU dries. If it is cost of living, nothing of it there. Just about the jobs your guys are going to get. Where is Kenya in all this? Where is democracy? At a time, William Ruto and the KK regime seems to be mobilizing as though in readiness for internal turmoil. Why would you bring the RSF to Kenya? Is it that you want them to help you internally? We already had reports that abductions are done in conjunction with foreign agencies. And I can confirm the abduction of Besigye was in conjunction with Ugandans military. They are foreign entities insofar as security is concerned. They were smuggled across the border. No papers were stamped. That is trafficking in persons. Why do you want to make our beautiful country the center of abductions? This is something we must resist as Kenyans, and it's something I'm telling my brother and friend, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. You're messing up your credentials.
You know, from where the people I interact with generally, people, I have a group of friends who have been diehards of Raila Odinga, but at this point they say they cannot believe, in fact, one, I'm just quoting, I cannot believe I have been conned by Raila Odinga and voted for him 3 times. So do you think that Raila Odinga is a con man who just follows his own interests? I
do not want to call him names, and I'm not going to join calling him names. Let everybody judge for themselves. But I'm telling him, here, my brother, you've let us down. And you're letting your own legacy down and that of your family. As people who have constantly fought for democracy, you are now seen to have turned your back on the people of Kenya.
Part of this MOU was in line with the implementation of the NADCO report.
NADCO is a scam. As NAC Kenya as we were then, on the 7th of December 2023, we held a press conference at the party headquarters denouncing NADCO and rejecting it in total. So it's nothing to tell us that NADCO is being implemented. NADCO has nothing to do with cost of living. The main thing in NADCO is jobs for the big boys, office of leader of the opposition. In our 2010 constitution, the opposition is known as the minority party in parliament. Change of name won't make them any worthier than they are today. They still have offices. There is offices of the leader of minority. That office should serve to work for the people. It is not the name that makes you work. And why do we want a prime minister? Just to offer jobs to more people. By the way, the amendments they are seeking will require a referendum. The office of prime minister changes the character of the executive. You have to go to a referendum. If you want to add the term of either parliament or the Senate or the National Assembly, you are altering the character of the legislature. You need a referendum. I am telling them, come. If you want a referendum, come, baby, come. It's an opportunity to go talk to the people. But Kenyans, please, let us think twice. Let us not allow a rogue regime that respects nobody, not the voters, not anyone, that does not respect the Constitution and our laws, to be the one to open the Constitution. We must refuse with it. The only thing that we are still above, our necks are still above the water, is this Constitution. You let it be opened, we'll sing.
And wow, that's interesting. But I would also want to know, do you believe Kenya is in terms of every day they keep telling us we don't have money? Are we in a state of carrying out a referendum because they asked for 61 billion for elections and we're already saying no?
That's a thieving budget. Any budget that tells you elections are 61, it's corruption. And we allow that corruption. Corruption is greed, and greed knows no limit. So even after pumping 61 billion, those there can still be bribed to mess the elections. I'm saying this country, we have all professionals. We have auditors. We have people who can assess and say, look at the budget. Look at how it is budgeted and say, no, this would be the efficient budget. We must do that in the opposition, and we must have a counter budget to everything that is being asked by this regime. And I'm saying that in the state of the economy, going through a referendum is a painful exercise. Why don't we first alleviate the suffering of Shashif? Get people good health. What is the urgency in giving people, extra people jobs? Why don't we prioritize what really matters to the ordinary person in the street? Those are the things I would urge for. We must align our priorities, and I want Kenyans to know we do not have a revenue problem. The money collected, properly used, effectively used is enough. Redirected to priority areas, not wanton spending, not splashing of our money to give lavish lifestyles to a select few.
And this splashing has come again with the role that the church is playing, because now the church has become like a wash center for money donations. President Ruto donated 20 million the other Sunday. Gen Zs or people who are unhappy with this went to the streets about it and were clobbered by the police for that. What is the role of the church, and in terms of governance, and also this whole idea of donations?
Before the church, I'll go to William Ruto. Show us your tax returns. If you have so much money, if you're so blessed that you have 20 million to donate every Sunday, we'd like to know how much you're making in your companies, your audited accounts, and we would like to see how much you're paying in taxes. Failure to do that, we suspect it is our money you are abusing. It's our money you have diverted. Show us the taxes we are paying, then we will understand. When we see you have built for yourself a mansion looking like a state house in Kilgoris, when we hear you have bought multiple hotels at the coast, multiple farms around the country, and all these you have bought after sitting on that seat, convince us it is not our money. If you don't, then we must be forgiven for thinking that you are milking us dry, you and your cronies. And to the men of God, men of cloth, choose whether the gospel or 30 pieces of silver. I am very, very happy that many religious leaders have said no to 30 pieces of silver. And I would want to urge others, even if you take 20, even if you take 100, That will not be the end of tithes in your church. You're still going to need more. Funny thing is that you'll get money for the needs of today, but tomorrow you will still need more. It's never enough. Let your congregation give you the money. Stop entertaining proceeds of corruption and fueling corruption in this country. And I said the same to voters. Wacha kutegemea pesa ya kuletwa na wanasiasa kama mimi wakati wa siasa. Chagua mtu sababu ya msimamo wake, utendaji kazi wake, lakini sio pesa.
Legally, can we come up, is it possible to have a law that stops politicians from doing donations?
We already have a law. The Public Officers Ethics Act that came even before the Constitution, amended the Code of Conduct. Public officers are not supposed to conduct harambes. So William Ruto is actually disobeying the law. He's the first in the display of impunity. And a person who doesn't obey the law doesn't obey the Constitution. Why would you allow him to touch your treasured document called the Constitution? We must jealously guard that. It stands between us and dictatorship. And I keep on saying it's like Dr. William Ruto is in a hurry to emulate some of our neighbors to be a dictator. In Kenya, we must do our best to stop his graduation as a dictator. If we get there, we may never come out. And we are hanging on a cliff.
Closed enough. That's a sad reality, actually, to think about it. The other people that are being attacked and have been attacked in Parliament just the other day is the media. What is the role that the media will play, and how independent can media be considering the commercial aspect of the space?
The media is called for the state, not for nothing, because the three arms of government are there. And then there is the media. So it comes in as fourth. Media informs, is a watchdog, because by revealing what is happening, it gives the people the impetus and the information through which they can hold the government and its agencies and other public officers to account. We must jealously protect the media. We protect our constitution, we protect the media as an institution that is necessary for the growth of democracy. Minus the media, to chronicle all the wrongs that are going on, there would be nothing happening. Minus the media, and I mean both social and mainstream, we must protect all the spaces where the media is. The Gen Z revolution would never have been known in the whole world the way it is. The Gen Z would not have been able to mobilize each other. We must jealously guard our forums, social media, mainstream media. They're all our spaces, and we must guard them very jealously. If you want to know the first signs of the making of a dictatorship, is to go against the media, because they want to do everything in darkness. Our constitution says transparency. How shall we be transparent without the media?
Mm. And one of the things I have seen you take up, and I saw it when Rigathi Gachagua, former deputy president, visited your home, was live on TikTok.
Yeah.
How do you think the digital space will influence politics, or is even influencing politics now in the 2027 election?
In a very great way. We are now able, on an armchair, to talk to thousands, sometimes millions of people. And you may interact live and then leave, but it will continue being seen by so many and being shared. At the end of the day, you'll be surprised that you've interacted with millions. So it's playing a key role. It will continue to play a key role. And I'm saying, let's safeguard all spaces called media, social, mainstream, anything media, let's safeguard.
And I stand
it's our
with
lifeline.
That. Yes, that I support. Interestingly, you and Rigathi Gachagua were on the opposite sides 2.5 years ago. Now we have seen a form of friendship that's becoming more of a political formation. How is that coming along, and what informed that?
It is coming along because I said that the battle of removing the KK regime and liberating people from its oppressive policies requires a very broad coalition. And we are starting to form that, not just with the people you saw. It's still wide open for people to come in and for Kenyans to come and join the liberation movement. And anybody who believes that the oppressive policies hurting Kenyans must be done away with, they are welcome. And that's how you see us standing with Rigathi, with many other leaders, with Kalonzo Musyoka, with Eugene Wamalwa, even Matiang'i was represented, and many others, even young Morara. And we are saying there are many others who are not there and whom we are talking to. We are reaching out and saying, come, let's stand together. We may all be ambitious, but only one person will get this seat. How about us standing together, having a mechanism that selects one candidate? We compete internally, one candidate gets it, we collapse behind that candidate to ensure that by 9 a.m. of the election day, Ruto and his regime will be home. So we are still in the early stages, of course, and we are discussing, and we have all agreed to be guided in our operations by the national values and guiding principles of leadership in Article 10 of our Constitution. It doesn't matter where you were yesterday, what you were doing yesterday. But as of now, we work together, embracing Article 10.
So unity of purpose.
Unity of purpose to relieve Kenyans of this pain, of this knee that is on their neck and is suffocating them.
And most can't breathe, if not all.
Most can't breathe. Kenya cannot breathe. This is killing Kenya and killing us together with our country.
So if this team selects and goes and votes and says Martha is our candidate, one of the key things that will come up for sure, whether we talk about it here or not, is the ghosts of 2007.
Which ghost?
Where everyone says Martha was part of this team that saw in Kibaki in the night and oversaw all these things. I mean, that conversation, it's always there.
Yeah, but it's there with people who want to wipe off their dirty hands, their bloody hands on my skirt. Kivuito declared Kibaki the winner, just the way Chebukati, with his 2 commissioners who are a minority, declared Ruto the winner. In a collegial decision-making of 7, 3 became the majority, and the Supreme Court endorsed. Once a winner is declared, who else could have been sworn? Could Raila have been sworn in 2007? The answer is no. The declared winner was Kibaki. He was sworn by whichever officer was required to swear him. He was declared by whichever officer was required to swear him. And yes, I participated in the ceremony happily. As his agent, I was happy he had been declared. And thereafter, they formed a grand coalition government. If you look at who went to the ICC for crimes against humanity, Martha Karua was not there. And it was not Kenyan investigators, lest you say I talked to them. It was ICC investigators. If there's anything I had done, I would have been among them. I have no guilt of 2007. I have regret that so many lives were lost as the leadership of that time. But I have no guilt over events at KICC. I was an agent for Kibaki, same way Orengo was for Raila. Kivuito announced Kibaki was sworn in, period. And at that time, there was no timetable of how to swear in a leader. That came in with the Constitution. Raila had an option to go to court. He did not. I asked them, why not go to court? I do not tell people to do what I can't do. In 2017, when I felt that Waiguru was declared wrongly as the governor, I went to court. The court disappointed me. I went beyond the borders of Kenya to Arusha because I believe in the rule of law. 2022, I and Raila went to court. And I alone, after the Supreme Court ruling, which I did not believe in, but which we obeyed, I went to East Africa. The case is still pending. Rule of law is very important. However unhappy you are, it is the only way we can keep an orderly society. So you who may have listened to propaganda about 2007, we followed the rule of law.
So the rule of law was it. Something that keeps coming up, and of course, even looking at the current government, everyone praises the government of Kibaki and your team that you worked with. What would you say made that first term a success?
Rule of law. In fact, when Kibaki came in, he never raised taxes. He just widened the tax net, calling on people to come and pay taxes, and people volunteered. The tax house was full of people. That time it was the community where the Milimani courts were. People were queuing to pay taxes. And they could immediately see work going on that was serving them. The free primary education, hospitals beginning to improve, water beginning to improve, all sectors improving. Kenya began to breathe. So it's not about how much you tax, it's how well we use. And Kenya has no revenue problem. We pay enough taxes. It's the priorities and the spending that is wrong. And also outright theft. We are told by the Auditor General that every year, about a third of the budget is misused or outrightly stolen. We have a 4 trillion budget. So you are talking of 1.3, like the one we were told recently was withdrawn wrongly. A portion of it is enough for universal health care. A portion of it is enough for the for the free education we had promised as Azimio from nursery to university. It's how well you use the money. And in Kenya, even institutions have now started using money wrongly. We desperately need to return to an orderly state, to the rule of law, in order to progress. To our professionals, to people in positions of authority. Yes, we will blame the political leaders, but I want to talk to you myself also, to ask you, what responsibility do you as a professional, do I as a legal professional bear? Everywhere public monies are abused or stolen, there will be an auditor, which is an accountant. If it's a road, there will be an engineer. There will be all manner of professionals. If it's a building, there will be an architect. And most of all, in all those transactions will be a lawyer who authorized. We are letting our country down. We have enough manpower, well-trained, all professionals in this country, and all people working in public spaces, in whatever capacity, including that clerk, including that messenger, that cleaner, to the top person. Can we for once serve our people, serve our country with dedication? Because tomorrow we may become victims of the very bad systems we are perpetuating. If you are in hospital asking for a bribe to process a sick person's papers, tomorrow it will be your person in a different hospital where you don't work, or in the very hospital you work but a different department. And you may just lose a friend, a relative, a person close to you, while they are being taken through corners by rent-seeking officials. Let's love our country enough to work for it, to improve it. Join the liberation movement. Unite, liberate.
Fantastic. Controller of Budget said, the other day I was watching when she was in Parliament, she was saying that Tanzania has a debt register that works. What has made Kenya not have a proper debt register that we can say we owe 5 trillion and this trillion did this?
Corruption.
Even now, if I ask you how much we owe, you wouldn't know what money was here.
It's corruption and impunity. Because that money, some of it, never even comes to the consolidated fund. It's shared abroad. Therefore, we need an audit of the debt register. We cannot be slaves to debt. Debt that never came to us. We also need to know what minerals are available, natural resources we own, who is exploiting them, and on what terms. We need to revisit these things. That is what the young leaders in the Sahel have done. They may have come to power through coup d'etat, but coups forced on them by bad governance, because bad governance that leaves people no outlet is what brings the coups. But those young leaders, like Burkina Faso, we have seen, they're doing great work. You can see their love for their country, and in turn, the love the people of the country have on those leaders.
So we need to love our country more.
Let us love our country more, and let us grow our democracy. Let it work for us. Let the state work for the majority of Kenyans and not be hijacked by a clique. We have enough resources, human and otherwise, to take our country from third to first world.
True.
Yeah.
The other day you launched a book.
Yeah.
Almost 5-6 months now.
No, it's not 6 months
it's
yet.
how many now?
Yeah.
Like 5?
It's November, December, January, February.
Oh, so 4 months. Now
It's
we are in
actually,
March.
it will be 4 months at the end of this
This
week.
month.
Yes.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How is the reception, and also are you working on another
It's
book?
received well, and it's selling. I'm not working on another yet, but maybe by June I'll start working on another, because I said I'll write about the elections of 2022 and electoral justice generally. I'm going to write that, but for now, I'm focusing on pushing the sales on this one, and I'm planning several book tours amidst my political campaigns. So full house.
Fantastic. What are the lessons you learned while doing this book?
Just that at the end of the day, your voice has to be in your book. It took so long because I started with surrogates. I couldn't hear my voice. I ended up, and I'm not saying the surrogates were useless. They did good work, but I still had to sit down and rewrite every page for it to be my book.
And it works perfect.
It worked well. So the next one, I'll start by writing. An editor can help improve.
But you will do it yourself.
I'll start by writing, yeah.
There's someone asked, I told someone that I was going to host you, and they asked me to request you, because they are reading your book, if you can attend their review when they are reviewing the book. I don't know if that's something that you can. Let them contact
us through my comms, and if I'm able, yes.
You will.
I would love to.
Fantastic.
Because it's also a feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So when you're not politicking or governing or going to the courts, what do you do for fun? And I know you play golf.
Enjoying family time with my grandchildren, with my relatives, enjoying my time with friends. Sometimes I go golfing, I go swimming. I'm just a regular person who does the things the person next door does. Yeah.
What would you say, since you're now an author, your best book as of now?
I don't know whether I'll call myself so loudly an author for doing a biography, but I'm going towards that. I read many books, and I enjoy reading many books. I've enjoyed reading autobiographies, fiction. Fiction is always good. There are some books so funnily written that you laugh to tears as you read them. So I love reading readable and interesting books. Yeah.
When you watch Kenyan politics, is there a movie you can say that describes the Kenyan politics?
Maybe The Animal Farm. It's not a movie, it's a book. The Animal Farm, where some animals think they are more equal than others. And talking of The Animal Farm, these days you are talking, and you get people saying of us politicians, nyani ni wale wale na msitu ni ule ule. Na mimi nasema hata wananchi ni wale wale na nchi ni ile ile. Because the citizens are not from Mars. It's the same Kenyans who have sometimes assisted put bad leadership into place. Yes, the leaders are the usual culprits, and there will be a few new ones. So we are the same people, same country. The question we must ask ourselves is, what must we do differently? As voters, vote value-based leaders, kulingana na msimamo wa kila mtu na historia yake na uwajibikaji wake kama ashapata nyadhifa hapo mbeleni. Kama hajapata nyadhifa, tafuta mwenendo wake kama ako na utu ndani yake. Na for the leader, na wewe ukichaguana, usichaguane sababu ya kitu kidogo. Chaguana kwa sababu ya maadili na msimamo wa kila chama na kila mwananchi. So we have a lot to change, not just leaders. Leaders don't make a country. A country is leaders plus citizens. Once again, join the liberation movement as leaders, as citizens. Let's do this together. It's doable.
That call is so loud, and I hope by now, if you've not, you better go online and just find out how you can join in.
By logging into plpkenya.com.
Log in there and not subscribe. Get yourself a membership to a party. Martha, you've achieved so much in life that I don't think we would even put it on one page. But what is the one thing that stands out for you in terms of influence for the country?
I think one of what I would call huge, and it's me and millions of Kenyans, is the 2010 Constitution. Having participated fully in those efforts, and especially presiding as minister when we made a legislation that was self-propelling, that ensured anybody trying to stop the process will not, and therefore birthing the 2010 Constitution. That was a moment of pure joy, pure ecstasy, not just for me, for millions of Kenyans. And this is the labor of many, not of one. Millions of Kenyans, and some lost their lives because the search for a new constitution was for almost 20 years. Yeah.
What's the one thing you'd say you feel you had a chance to do for country, but never really got to a point of doing it to your best in hindsight?
I would say this, collectively as the leadership, 2007, we should never have let collectively the country go to the dogs the way it is. The tension was palpable in the run-up to the 2007 elections. What with a campaign of 42 against 1. No, 41 against
41 against 1.
Against 1.
Yes.
It was obvious something was going very wrong. We tried to correct it, and we even had an eminent persons group going around the country. Never really were able to completely implement what was there. Were never able to come together. So collectively as leaders, that's a place, a dark place in our history, causing lives, so many lives, so much displacement. We must never repeat it. And those who are talking with ethnic undertones today, and I'll single out Dr. William Ruto, better watch themselves. Maybe you talk about it to mask your own feelings, to project on others your own feelings. We better think of Kenya as one. Unity is very important. When we are being oppressed by taxes, it's not a community, it's the whole country. Shashif is affecting every Kenyan. So the issues we stand for, and our children, the Gen Z, have shown us, are issues affecting the entire nation. Let us tackle these issues together as people belonging to a home, to a community called Kenya, the Kenyan community. The rest are small tributaries of the great river called Kenya. And that's why we must unite and liberate ourselves.
For me, I have watched a lot of your clips, and one of the most outstanding one is when you walked out on Moi. When you look at that clip today, how does that make you feel?
I think it's okay. I know that's me, and it's you, me today. I will not stand injustice. Sitasimama maovu ikitawala au maovu itawale. And that's why I love Juliani's song, Utawala. So I never tolerate injustice. I act. And that's my DNA. Whether it's injustice towards me or towards others, I try to act immediately.
And I love that. Thank you so much, Senior Counsel, Party Leader PLP, for joining us and sharing your time with us. I'm sure our viewers have really taken a lot from that. What would be, maybe if you have any closing remarks to the people?
My closing remarks, the coming together of people in a political party, coming together of people to support value-based leaders for all the 6 seats. That is a Kenyan project. Kindly, voter, do not expect money from the candidate. Help the candidate, a good candidate, in any way you can, by donating your time, your money, sometimes it's your car or your motorcycle, or just distributing papers along your street for them, by talking to the person next door. Unless if we do this together, we leave it to those seeking leadership alone, we are likely to make a mistake again. Unite, liberate ourselves.
You've spoken so much about abductions. Are you afraid that they will come for you too, because you also represent some of these people who've been abducted?
I share the same risk every Kenyan shares. But fear is not an option. I have kept on repeating, fear is not an option. Even if you hide under your bed, when the system wants you, when the abduction squad has been asked to come for you, they'll get you under your bed. Afadhali, ukutwe ukifanya kazi ya Mungu. Stand up against abductions, against the evils in society. By protecting somebody else's right, you protect your own right. That is my mantra.
Thank you so much for watching till this end. You got the message from Senior Counsel. It's up to us as Kenyans at this point. We'll catch you on the next episode, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.